welcome back. Today we will discuss sum of a random number of random variables. So far, so last lecture we studied sum of random variables, right. So, given two random variables x and y or given n random variables x 1 through x n, we know how to derive the CDF of x 1 plus x 2 so on till x n given the joint CDF of these random variables. So, today, so in the beginning we will discuss today the case when the number of random variables you are summing is also a random variable. Okay. So, you are not summing some small n number of random variables where n is fixed, but the number of terms you are summing is itself a positive integer valued random variable. Okay. So, let us get started on this. So, you have let x I greater than or equal to 1 be a sequence of independent random variables. Okay. So, now here we will only consider the case when these x i's are independent. Okay. The dependent case is more complicated. Okay. Let n be a positive integer valued random variable with PMF P n of n equal to probability that n is equal to n. So, I should say with CDF f x I, that is also known. Assume that n is independent of x i's. So, actually what I really mean is that n x 1 x 2 x n they are all independent random variables. Okay. Now, you want to consider the sum. Consider S n is equal to I equals 1 through capital N x I. Okay. So, what this means, so let me try to explain what it actually means in terms of the sample space. So, you have a sample space omega f p and you have these random variables x i's defined on the same sample space. Now, this n is also a positive integer valued random variable defined on the same sample space. Okay, they all live on the same omega f p. Okay. So, there is just one underlying source of randomness and little omega realizes, and once little omega realizes, these x i's of omega will realize as a sequence of real numbers and n of omega will realize as a positive integer, some positive integer. Okay. And so, when omega realizes, so you will sum I equals 1 through n of omega is now a positive integer, x i's of omega. Is that okay? Yeah. So, you have your sample space omega f p, you have some little omega realizing, and what I am saying is that so x I of omega I greater than or equal to 1 will be a sequence of real for that particular omega, and n of omega will be a will realize as some particular some positive integer valued random variable. So, it will be some positive integer for a given omega. So, as when little omega realizes, this S n of omega will simply be I equals 1 through n of omega sum x I of omega. Okay, so, the number of terms you are summing is also depends on the realization omega. Okay, it is not a fixed number, but there is only one source of randomness. Omega is what determines the realization of n as well as the x i's. Okay. Now, what you are saying is, so this we have assumed that n and x i's are independent random variables, okay, and we know the CDF of the marginal CDF of this x i's is known for each I, and also the PMF of n is known. Okay. Now, the task is to find, for first of all, I mean you have to make an argument to show that S n is a random variable. We know that sums of a fixed number of random variables is a random variable, but you have to make sure that S n is in fact a random variable, S capital N, and then you have to determine the CDF of S n. Okay. So, we proceed as follows. So, we want this, right. This is the CDF of S n. So, this is what we want to find. So, what we will do, so we will use so we'll the realization of n partitions the sample space. So, I am going to look at a partition of the sample space. So, for certain omegas, so this set of omegas for this n may be equal to n of omega may be equal to 1, okay, and for some, so it takes only positive integer values, right. So, this will, so this may correspond to n of omega equal to 2, right, and so on, right. So, they may be, so if capital N takes only finitely many values, the sample space will only have finitely many partitions. If it takes infinitely many values, it will have a countable infinity of these partitions, correct. So, once I have a partition of the sample space, I can invoke law of total probability, right, that is why I am looking at this. So, is this picture clear? So, all these omegas here will correspond to n of omega equal to 1, and x i's of omega will be whatever, we do not know, right. I am just looking at the partition induced by n. Okay. Hence, we can write probability S n less than or equal to x is equal to sum over k equals 1 through infinity, probability S n less than or equal to x given n is equal to k, probability n is equal to k. This is because of the law of total probability, right. I am not writing omega such that everywhere, okay. So, by now you understand that. Now, so this is something we know, right. Now, this is also something we can figure out, because so given that n is equal to k, this S n is simply equal to S k, right, which is a deterministic sum, right. It is not a sum of a random number of random variables, it is a sum of a deterministic this is like, so let me write this properly, this is equal to k equals 1 through infinity, probability S n less than or equal to x given x k. So, maybe I should write s k less than or equal to x given n equals k, okay, because I have just put n equals k here because that is what I am conditioning on, right, times probability n equals k. Now, do we know that? So, between this and this, the nice thing is I am now down to a deterministic the number of terms is deterministic now, it is k, small k, right, and the summation outside is over k. Okay. So, can I deal with this now? Correct. So, because n is independent of all the xi's, n is independent of s k. See, after all, what is s k? It is only x 1 plus x 2, so on till x k, right, that is s k, and you know that n is capital N is independent of your x's. So, it capital N given n equal to k. So, these guys the xi's are independent, right. So, this is nothing but the unconditional probability, right, because n is independent. So, this you can write this is because of independence of this is because of independence of n and xi. Okay. I can write sum over k equals 1 through infinity probability. So, this will boil down to the unconditional probability of s k less than or equal to x times probability that n equals k. Okay. Fine. So, is the step clear? This is because of independence. Okay, great. Now, this is, as I said, is known to us, and is this known to us? This will simply be, so this is the CDF of s k. Now, k is a deterministic number for so every term for every k. So, s 1 for example is simply x 1, and we know the CDF of that, right. S 2 will be x 1 plus x 2, and the CDF of that you can, well, if it is a if you have densities you can convolve, right, if not you know how to find it, right. So, this if your xi's have densities you can convolve and find the densities, if they do not have densities you can still find it, right. They may be discrete, xi's may also be discrete, right, there is no guarantee that xi's are continuous or anything. So, this is something you know how to find from previous lecture, right, and then you for each k you have to find it, put it in and do the summation, right. So, conceptually I mean, so this does not simplify in full generality, but you know how to do it, right, given a specific example you will be able to solve it, right. All right, any questions on this? Again, see, just in the case of a deterministic number of so when the sum is deterministic, I said for example that instead of convolving you can use transforms, right, which makes your life easy. Here too, when you use transforms your this simplifies a little bit further, okay, we will come to that later, but for now all you can do is find this the hard way, put it in and sum, okay. Okay, so let me do an example which is a very famous example. This is the case where xi's are IID exponential with parameter lambda. So, each xi is exponential with parameter lambda independent. No, there is no, I mean there is no really, I mean there is nothing you can do about this, but you can, this is something you know how to find from previous lecture, you just plug it in and sum, right. So, when you use transforms this formula simplifies a bit, we will get to that later. So, xi is IID exponential and n is independent of xi's and geometric with parameter p. Okay. So, I am summing. So, you know that, so when you sum IID exponentials you get what? You do not, when you sum exponential you do not get an exponential. So, you get an Erlang, right, we discussed this, right. I think we derived in fact the Erlang 2 formula explicitly, and if you sum n Erlangs you will get the n exponentials, you get the nth order Erlang, right. So, this is a very well known example where you do not sum a fixed number of exponentials, you sum a geometric number of exponentials. Okay. So, here it turns, so the reason I am doing this is it gives you a nice answer. Okay. It starts out looking messy, but it gives you a nice answer. Okay. Now, so that is where we are. So, you can apply this rule, right. So, you can, so S n is equal to sum over I equals 1 through n x I. So, you can think of x I as being generated as independent IID exponentials and n is a independent geometric, right. It takes values in positive integers. Okay. And you are summing a geometric number of IID exponentials. Now, what is the distribution of this is the question. So, you can just write probability of S n less than or equal to little x is equal to sum over k equals 1 through infinity, probability S k less than or equal to x, okay, times probability n is equal to k. Okay. Now, we have to, so this we know, right. This is simply, so this is equal to what? 1 minus p 1 minus p to the k minus 1 times p, right. And this guy I do not know off the top of my head, does anybody remember the CDF of the Erlang? I think the PDF looks like mu to the n x power n minus 1 over n minus 1 factorial e power, so lambda, sorry. So, this is how the PDF looks, right, and the CDF is the integral of this. Okay. So, you put that in and do the summation. Okay. See what I mean, right. So, this is the PDF, I think n minus 1 and I think this is right, yeah. So, this is the PDF, but you have to put the CDF in here, right, and you just do the summation. Okay. It looks messy to begin with, but you can show that this gives you a very nice answer. Okay. In fact, what you will get is when you do the summation you get the you can show that S n is exponential with parameter lambda p. Okay. So, you sum a geometric number of exponentials, you get another exponential whose parameter is lambda times p. Okay. And the way you get that is to simply do the summation, brute force at this point. Okay. So, so it is nice that, so if you sum a fixed number of exponentials you get an Erlang, right, which is somewhat messy, right. So, this is like small f x, okay. This is not the CDF, no, not small f x, this is small f s n, isn't it? And from there you have to get this. So, this is a bit messy, but if you sum a geometric number of exponentials you get another exponential. Okay. So, that we just showed using brute force. Now, there is a very nice interpretation to this result. Okay. You can think of, so okay, let us say, so I mentioned that exponentials are So, they are the time duration between two successive radioactive emissions, right, they are exponentials, right. So, suppose and the IID exponentials, right. So, suppose a radioactive source is emitting particles and they are all IID exponentials with parameter lambda. Now, so you are what you are doing is you are looking at, so if you look at let us say in time, let us say that is my first radioactive emission, that is my second, that is my third, that is my fourth and so on. Okay, these are radioactive emissions and these are all IID exponentials, right. Now, what I am doing is I am summing a geometric number of these, right, which means I am tossing a coin. So, every time there is an emission I am tossing a coin whose probability of heads is p, let us say, and I am looking at the duration until the first head shows up. Every time there is a emission I will toss a coin, let us say this gives me tails. So, next time there is a, let us say this give me tails, okay, and then let us say this give me heads. Okay. Then, so the number of coin tosses I wait is clearly geometric, that is what a geometric is after all, and the total time I wait, right, until I see my first head is Sn, S capital N, right, because I am waiting for x 1 plus x 2 so on till x s a, right, x capital N. So, this is the first time. So, let us say if this is where I am starting to look at things, this is the first time where I see heads with an emission, right. So, you can think of this as splitting these alpha particles, right. So, maybe your alpha particles are coming out, you have a splitter that will send it this way with probability p, this way with probability 1 minus p, and you are putting a detector over there. Okay, you are not putting a detector at the source, but you are splitting it and putting a detector over there. So, the first we are saying now that the first time that your detector after the splitter will see an emission is in fact also an exponential. Understand what I am saying, right. So, you can think of this source as, so if this is your radioactive source, all right, it is throwing out a bunch of particles and you split it, you can think of heads as being splitting up and tails as splitting down, right, and instead of putting a detector here and detecting all these emissions, you are just putting a detector here and you will only see those emissions which corresponds to getting a head, right, corresponding to sending here. So, if you look at things here, then it will look like also exponential according to our result, it will look like exponential with parameter lambda p, but your original process is like exponential with parameter lambda, right. Is that clear? So, you can build any other story you want, right. Suppose you are waiting for a taxi and the inter arrival taxi times are exponentials, and with probability p each taxi is full, you cannot take it, right. How long the distribution of how long you wait in the taxi stand is exponential with parameter lambda times 1 minus p, right, because with the probability p it is full, right. Understand this? So, this again has to do with what is known as a Poisson process, and what this result essentially says is that if you split if you IID Bernoulli split a Poisson process, you get another you get Poisson processes also. Okay. Poisson process being just the process of emissions of alpha particles. Okay. Is that clear? So, this is a very well known example. Okay, so, in this course we will only discuss the case when capital N is independent of the excise. Okay. So, the number of terms you sum, so I made this step, remember. So, this is only possible if capital N is independent of all the excise and therefore independent of Sk, right. But it is also possible to study the case when capital N depends on the excise. So, that also has applications. So, you may go to a casino and say that I will play a game, an IID win or loss game a certain number of times, and I will stop playing when my profit is $100 or my loss is $100 or something like that. So, in that case the index where you stop, the capital N, the number of times you stop, is also a function of your previous winnings and losings, right. In that case, so that is the case that we will not cover in this course, but it is covered in a course offered next semester. Okay. Those case, so in that situation you cannot make this, right, you cannot go from here to here, because N will depend on your previous exercise, but it turns out you can still do it with a more sophisticated technique called using stopping rules. You can actually figure that also, right, even when N is dependent on the exercise in this way, but that is not something we will cover this semester. Okay. Any questions? So, this example also, so right now you have a very dirty way of doing it, when we have transforms you will have a much cleaner way of doing it. Okay. But I suggest you, I mean the reason I did not do it is it will take 20 minutes for me to do it, I will probably make a mistake somewhere, I may write n factorial instead of n minus 1 factorial, right. I did not want to waste class time on that, but I suggest you try it out. It is not all that difficult actually, it will probably take you 10-15 minutes to do it, but when you use transforms you will see how much quicker it is. Okay.